Dodge and Ram dealers are choosing to actually take major losses. Yes, the tables have turned and the market has flipped on its head. I've been scouring dealerships lately. I've been watching for new inventory, which unfortunately has continued to bubble over, and a lot of these manufacturers just can't sell what they've got. I've even found 2022 model years sitting out on the back lot. They still can't pitch some of those models. Lots of 23s that they're trying to provide incentives. And as I scour local dealerships and I check their websites, I'm able to find trucks that are listed $6,000, $8,000, $12,000, and even $15,000 or more dollars off of the sticker price. Never mind paying over sticker. And clearly we know Stellantis, Dodge, Ram, they were one of the culprits for cranking up prices, but things have literally changed.
Well, looking in here, honestly, I've seen trucks as high as $150,000, $160,000. I've seen Wranglers here as much as almost 140 grand, all before taxes. I'm seeing the Grand Wagoneers up about 140 grand. So these are like, I mean, these are serious dollars. But conversely, what's starting to happen now, after looking here and checking online, I'm starting to see the fact that what they're doing is hammering some incentives. You're seeing sticker and then you're seeing like a discount. I'm seeing 5 grand, 10 grand. I even saw one in there that's $20,000 marked off. So clearly that tells me that there's a lot of opportunity.
Whether it's a combination, you look down the lots of all these extra vehicles in inventory, the floor plans, obviously huge costs, and dealers, the Dodge and Ram dealers are starting to scramble. They're getting insane with what they're trying to offer up with some of these incentives. Now, is it enough to get the local buyer like you? Is it enough to get buyers like you or me to even go down there and sign on the dotted line? I don't know, but we'll share some of those numbers with you shortly. But till then, dealers unfortunately are struggling because buyers are done. They've had it. Prices are way too high. And how high are they? Well, they're so high, in fact, that people are saying, you know, I've seen prices go up 60 or 70% over what they were in 2019. And while I definitely agree with what I've seen there, we're starting to see prices start to slide back down. Now, we're not there where we were back in 2019. However, we're getting prices down a little bit. And it's a lot of it has to do with the market. Yes, the market's shifting, cost of living increases, people can't afford to live, they just need a roof over their head, and they don't care about a $90,000 truck anymore. I mean, the government was throwing handouts left, right, and center during 2020, 21. The government handouts were literally unscrupulous, and people could get their hands on anything, any amount of money, and banks weren't even challenging people in a lot of cases. They were just basically saying, go ahead, we've got you covered. And now we have a situation where people are upside down on a lot of their mortgages, a lot of their debts on their car loans, and the market is literally going bananas. Unfortunately, interest rates remain substantially high because banks aren't necessarily adjusting. Even though people are working, yes, it feels like the economy is still going round and round. You see the highlights where, yes, there's job creation in the US and Canada has seen some slumping. And so there's a mixed bag and a mixed conversation. So you have different scenarios and different markets. So what we're seeing are pockets is where people are seeing, you know, great opportunities, are making the incomes, are working, and they're out there still buying. And unfortunately, that still holds the values high, the interest rates, and we're not getting those adjustments by the reserves. Canadian US banks aren't necessarily jumping to the pump. But now with this unfortunate reality is Ram, Dodge have had some major struggles with quality control. And that's one of the big hits. So now people, it's insult to injury. They're thinking, if I'm going to be spending $80,000 or $70,000 on a pickup truck, this thing better massage my butt cheeks, pay my mortgage, cut my lawn, and change my underwear for me.
And then we look at some of the Rams here, and I had a quick look at this one. What do we got here? A fairly plain looking spec. It doesn't look like it's overly dressed up. You do have plain grille. Yeah, they're pretty interesting looking vehicles, and you do have the matte finish on the wheels, but this one is a 1500 Hemi E-Torque right there, so it's not base, but it's certainly not that big of a spec. You do have the larger back seating space on this vehicle. It is a 4x4, but any guesses on what this unit goes for? It's absolutely ludicrous. Let's take a quick look over here and check the window sticker. It's kind of hard to see because it's the tinted windows so dark here, but let's take a look here. $82,000 out the door plus GST. Well, it's not out the door, but that's plus taxes and all the other good jazz. But basically the vehicle plus its specs and options takes you to $82,000 for this vehicle. Quite pricey for a half-ton truck. Remember, this is a half-ton, light-duty truck. This truck's not doing a ton of work. Sometimes people put the fifth wheel on there, but you know what? It is what it is. It's a half-ton truck for over $80,000. But I did find some other interesting ones when I was browsing here. I mean, I'm looking right there on this list and I'm seeing 155 grand, but that's the TRX. And then I'm looking at 105,000 for a half ton and 100,000, $100,000. So they're probably fairly well spec'd, but I can't believe how much money people are paying for these vehicles. And they are great trucks, don't get me wrong. I actually personally drive a Ram, an older Dodge Ram, and I like it. It's still trucking along, the old 4.7. But that seems like a lot of money. And Stellantis and Ram and Dodge and all these and the Jeeps, that company as a whole, they're really shooting for the stars. And maybe they were overestimating where the economy is, and clearly I think there's a suspicion that we wouldn't be where we're at today, where interest rates and inflation are all of a sudden this high, and the anticipation was to get as many cars and trucks and vans and SUVs out on the lot as possible to make sure that there's no shortages. There was probably gambling on the fact that hit while the iron's hot, people were shopping hard, spending money like it's going out of style, and of course, then it caught a lot of people, caught these guys with their guards down, because clearly what we have is an excess of vehicles.
And if it doesn't do all of those things, I don't want it, because they've had a whole struggle of different problems. For example, quality issues, 600,000 units because of, the clean air emissions problems that some of these vehicles have had. That definitely put some sour taste in a lot of mouths. Then back in December of 2023, basically the end of the year, a whole host of Rams, about 142,000 trucks, 1500s, 3/4, 1-ton pickup trucks have had this gross recall. When you actually hit the signal light, it's actually inadvertently shines the high beams and scrambles and gives mixed reviews to people that are oncoming, and potentially leads to bad decision making in traffic and can significantly contribute to collisions. And Stellantis also recalled about 273,000 trucks, half tons, 3500s, and generally 2022-23 model years that generally don't light up the backup camera inadvertently. We know that that's a regulation, but it's a clear message that the quality control just isn't where it should be. And have you heard about the failing transmissions on the 1-ton, so the 3500 Rams, that have this little snap ring that comes apart in the transmission, and it results in losing almost all your gears with the exception of maybe first or reverse, and another catastrophic failure. And we know, unfortunately, Ram and Dodge and Chrysler have had their sordid affair and history of quality-related problems in the transmissions in many of their different vehicles. And then there was 131,000 and change 1500s, 2021 model years, the e-Torque with the 5.7 that have had some problems with programming in the ECU and the fuel mixture, where it could cause drivability concerns to the point where there was actually allegedly some collisions related to that. Now, apparently no fatalities, but it can lead up to some serious problems. So it's all of these quality challenges that Ram and Chrysler, Stellantis, Jeep, all of those from that bubble have had that have really eroded the trust that a lot of ownerships and that a lot of owners and buyers of these trucks are expecting out of these manufacturers. Especially when you're spending $80,000 or $90,000 on a truck, you don't want to have to revisit the dealership 4, 5, 6 times over to rectify problems that should have been dealt with in quality control department back in the factory. So people are losing their faith, their trust. Now, of course, with the quality, the prices of these vehicles have just gone skyrocketed through the roof. And now, because the money's a little harder to come by, now because the government isn't necessarily throwing out money left, right, and center, people are becoming a little bit choosier. People are starting to ask the questions and making more decisions based on actual quality, deliverables, and what we're actually getting for our money. And if we're not getting the value for our money, Ram, we all know, and some of the Stellantis products have had their hands full with problems, quality issues. No different than Ford. They've certainly led the charge in terms of recalls, but they've all had some big issues. And this is one of the other things that's a nail in the coffin for Ram, is the high prices, the quality challenges, and now people are just snookered with a cost of living crisis that's just bearing down on each and every one of us on any given time. And in light of all of that, you definitely want to see that video. Ford, Ram, GM are all struggling with this truck crisis. People aren't buying, they're mad. And why is that? You're definitely going to want to see that. We'll hope to see each and every one in the next one. We'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.